Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Ryden. The humorist David Sedaris has been quoted as saying, I feel bad for people that don't write. Someone breaks up with them, they take a bullet to the leg, whatever, that's the end. They can't make money off it. Meaning that a writer, on the other hand, can turn those perils into pearls and paragraphs and those woes into winsome words. And that's pretty much what our guest, Peter Sheardy, has been doing of late. His newest book, just out, is Chasing Fireflies, a continued collection of poems and lyrics. Peter, welcome, joining us from just outside Chicago.
Thank you, Paul. Glad to be here.
The word continued suggests that this isn't the first time you put your feelings down in words.
This is actually my third book, but it's my second book of poems and lyrics.
Okay. Do you find yourself writing about something right after it happens, or do you kind of sit there and process and kind of think about it over the years or months and then write about it?
It's someone once asked me that what my writing process is, and it's
Yeah.
hard to pinpoint. Uh, I'll pick up a line. Example, I heard a line in Miami airport about 15 years ago, and I'm just now revisiting that line to make a poem or a song out of it. So things will sit on the shelf for a while. I've got pages and pages of one lines of a verse, of a chorus, what it might be, and something will just spur me, something that may have happened in wherever I'm standing or hanging
Mhm.
out, and then all of a sudden I'll go, you know what? I've got words about this. I'm gonna go dig those up and write something about it.
Well, do you carry a notebook with you?
I do. I'm still old fashioned. I write stuff down. I don't.
Well, that's all right. I do the same thing. I'm starting to kind of use the phone a little bit more for that, but I mean, up until just yesterday, I think I decided to stop using checkbook check registers and just stick with the computer. I mean, good grief, so redundant, but that's we old
Right.
guys. Sometimes we get set in our ways, and writing is no different. But you kind of done all kinds of stuff as far as your writing. Not only have you put things on the page, you've also penned lyrics with a couple of CDs, original music to your credit. How is that different from the poems that you write, or is it?
Well, it is quite different. When I first started writing poetry, it was in high school, and I honed my craft in college. And it was about 5 years after college. I was with my best friend, who's been my friend since eighth grade, who is an accomplished pianist. He said, "You know what we got to do? We got to take some of your poems and put it to music."
Mhm.
And I said, "Well, yeah. How hard can it be?" Well, it's a lot harder, unless you're Bob Dylan. It's a
Yeah.
lot harder than it seems. And it's usually it kind of goes like this. If I want to write a poem about a sunrise, I can take as many pages and as verses as I want to describe that sunrise. But if I'm going to write a song about a sunrise, especially for what they call drive time music, I better tell you that story in under 4 minutes.
Right.
So it took a little bit of a learning curve to get my point across quicker.
Yeah, do you write the music as well?
I do not. My best friend is does all the music. I just do the words.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because I remember Elton John and Bernie Taupin, they had a really different way of doing it. As I recall, he would write the lyrics and then they would put music to it. Or is it the other way around?
No, that is correct. That
Yeah,
is
isn't that
correct.
weird?
Yeah, and he lives in Detroit, so it's not like we can just you know get together that easily. I will send him lyrics and he'll say, "I've got some music. I think that'll work for this."
Now, tell us a little bit about where and how you grew up. You're outside Chicago now, but you've lived in a lot of different places. What was your background like? Because I think that your background probably has a lot to do with the stuff you write.
It does. It does. I actually grew up on a lake in Michigan, and it was carefree days. It was like every day was vacation growing up on the lake when you're young. And every summer, my family would go on a family vacation somewhere, and so I learned to appreciate the beauty outside of my own environment. And then with one of my jobs, I traveled extensively. In fact, I was on a plane just about every week, flying to everywhere in North America and other places around the world. And again, every place I went, whether it be from the Northern California seashore to the sawgrass of the Everglades, I found beauty there that inspired me to write about that area. So yes, I have lived a lot of places, but it's benefited my pen.
Did you have a happy childhood, or
I
was there things?
did.
Okay,
I
so there
did. Yeah,
weren't
I really
things that
did. I
it wasn't a
really.
lot of angst that you write about now or anything.
Oh no, no, no. One thing you'll if and you'll find in all my most of my poems is they're reminiscing about better times, about youth,
Hmm.
about chasing love, things like that, but never not too much anger
Yeah.
or yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. Chasing Fireflies, where'd you come up with the title? Obviously, it's one of your poems.
It is. It is. And I just remember when I don't remember how old we were, but in the summertime on the lake, the fireflies would come out, and it was just a thrill to try to catch them and hold them briefly in your cupped hand and then release them. And I know by today's standards that's probably pretty lame, but it was obviously fulfilling enough for me to write about it 40
Sure.
years later.
Yeah. Now, why did you choose poetry over prose? I mean, you could have written a little essay about it and tied in some sort of a lesson or whatever, or just an experience. Why poetry?
I I I think that poetry is maybe it's a little more direct and structured because it has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Hmm.
Prose can kind of dance around, I think, and I have attempted to write some short stories, and but I have nothing that's really I thought it was worth sharing.
Hmm. Of all the experiences you have, what's the one thing that you get the most material out of? I know that I could spend hours writing about my ineptitude as a young athlete, or I could write about my career and the mistakes I've made. In fact, I have in a book. So, what about you? Where do you find yourself always returning to for rich material?
Well, it's interesting because somebody said, how many more love songs do we need out there?
Yeah,
But they're still making them, right?
yeah.
Because everyone is either knows the pros and the cons of falling in or out of love. So love always interweaves in a lot of my words, as well as again that reminiscing part of childhood, carefree childhood days when we didn't have uh, cell phones and we didn't have responsibilities and things
Mhm.
like that. I mean, those are things that this latest book that I've written kind of reflects more on.
How would you describe your style? Is it just nostalgia? Is it humor? Is it what? How would you describe it?
Well, it's kind of a little bit like some Shel Silverstein stuff
Hmm.
back in the day.
The
It's
Giving
some of it's
Tree.
kind.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Some of it's whimsical. Some of it is there's some depth to it as well, but it's more um, try to make it more words that everybody could relate to
Hmm.
without getting into the weeds.
Were there any particular authors who inspired you, or poets who inspired you? I
Yes,
know
on the poetry.
The three Toms in music, I
the
guess, is
three,
one of
the
them.
three Toms in music, absolutely. Tom T. Hall, Tom Waits, and Tom Russell inspired my lyrics.
Uh-huh.
They're great storytellers. And then on the poetry side, I was introduced when I moved to Florida to a poet named Don Blanding, who
Hmm.
wrote back in the 40s and the 50s. And he wrote a lot about the South Pacific. And a lot of his poems had tropical themes to them. And I grabbed onto that. And a lot of my poetry does have some of that in the background. I've written a lot of stuff around about Florida and things like that. So he really inspired me. And then I also get inspired by the whimsical words of like a John D. McDonald as an author, or Kinky Friedman, Herman Raucher. These guys are all kind of just lighthearted stories, not to take anything away from a Hemingway or a Faulkner,
Yeah,
but that stuff's just a little heavy for me.
yeah, yeah. What do you think about the state of poetry and song lyrics these days?
Well, song lyrics is very interesting. I still write ballads. I still write story songs, which are not going to make probably on the radio.
Hmm.
If somebody said, "Could you sit down and write a song for Taylor Swift?" I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's just um, a different vibe or a different message. Maybe they're trying to get across. So the lyrics have changed. Obviously, I was exposed to Dylan in the past, and Jimmy Buffett obviously was a great inspiration to me as well. In fact, the first poem in my book is about Jimmy Buffett.
Mhm.
Um, so the lyrics have changed along with the times, I think. And poetry is never going to be as big as mystery or science fiction. I can't see Stephen King writing a poem, and I can't see me writing a horror book. But it's just more dear to me, and it's more. I feel like I can get into it better other genres.
I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I find so many of the songs, maybe country songs or even, well, any songs really, even worship songs, the rhyming schemes are just awful. They're like they're close to rhyming, but they don't quite rhyme. And that's what I always liked about show tunes and Broadway was they are just perfect. They're just right on as far as the rhymes and very clever.
Yes, yeah, and you're correct on that. There's a lot of bending of the vernacular, I guess you could say, but yeah, I kind of go back to old Fats Domino. You know, he could rhyme hand with heart better than anybody I knew, but there seems to be more of that today in today's music.
Yeah, it seems to me anyway, it seems a little lazy, but what do I know? You know, a lot of writers have had day jobs. You think of Jack Kerouac as a dishwasher among his other jobs. Kurt Vonnegut was a car dealer. You have a part a day job as a horticulturalist. How does that, besides trying to pronounce it, what's that like?
I love it. The horticulture industry is ever changing, always evolving. There's no stagnation in it. I got into plants. My very first job when I was 15 was in a garden center, and I haven't looked back. And
Really?
I love it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the thing and nice that's great about plants, I think, is that it's a positive product. No one needs a plant, but everybody likes a plant.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and I'd much rather sell plants than pharmaceuticals or software.
So what's exactly involved in your job?
So I basically help retailers, garden centers, independent garden centers, sell more plants, and
Oh,
that
okay.
could be through sourcing the plants, display, advertising, uh, training of employees, and things like that to be successful
Hmm.
in retailing plants.
I think I see a book of poetry about live plants working way somewhere in your brain. There's got to be somewhere. Now I know you're widely traveled. You've been to 49 of the 50 states. The only one missing is Hawaii. I assume that an inspiration-seeking trip is in the future somewhere, right?
Absolutely, yes. As I mentioned, I have the outfit all picked out to go, so I'm ready to go.
You are ready. Before going, I'd like to hear, and I'm sure our readers would like, or our viewers would like to hear a sample from your book. Can you give us a little taste of what readers can expect?
Yeah, one I picked out is a good story song. It's called Purgatory, and
Oh,
it's basically Twilight Zone meeting a Western movie. And
okay.
yeah, and I'll just read opening several lines for you. But the old cowboy, he leaned on a bar like an old man would lean on a crutch, a glass of American whiskey firmly in his clutch. His thoughts were scattered, if he even thought that much. It's just another day in purgatory. He waited for the next cowboy to stumble through the doors, like many sad cowboys had done before. How many, you ask? Nobody's keeping score. It's just the start of a game in purgatory. And it goes on from there to finish out what that cowboy leaning at the bars there for.
I like the rhyming patterns too. I mean, they're nice, very
Thank you.
good.
Thank you.
So now you've written not just poetry, but you had a book called Airplane Etiquette. Tell me about that. That was your first one, right?
That was my very first book, and again, that all stemmed from being on an airplane
Yeah.
every week, and just watching. I've often told people if you want to see a breakdown in the human condition, watch people get off an airplane. There's one way off. We all have the same destination, yet it's just amazes me how uh, selfish some people can be. There's it's called traveling with manners, airplane etiquette,
Okay.
traveling with manners, because manners seem to have gone out the window.
Do you
And
think?
it's not only just on the airplane, but in the airport, getting to the airport, going through security, everything. Just how it's kind of a guideline for, and it's but it's not for the amateur flyer. It's for the professional flyers too that do it all the time because sometimes they're the worst.
Oh yeah, I hear you. Well, the name of the book. What else you got coming up? I mean, I do want to ask you about that. Have you got anything more in the works?
I write every day, Paul, and
Do
I'm
you?
yes, I do. I write. I'm working on a couple of books. I've got some children's books I'm working on. I've got actually mentioned it earlier, but I do have a book about plants that I'm working on. And then I also have I actually have an animated screenplay that I've written about houseplants
Well, that's
that, that
fantastic.
that come to life. So yeah, I'm always working on something.
Well, I always encourage writers to write every day. I write every day too, but sometimes I just write about, I don't write something out of whole cloth necessarily, but I'll think, okay, what did I do yesterday? And just write about it. And
Sure.
sometimes it's mundane stuff. Other times there's lessons I've learned, or it's kind of kind of like a diary, but it's at least keeps me writing. And way to go. I'm glad you're doing that.
Thank you.
The name of the book is Chasing Fireflies, a continued collection of poems and lyrics, and it's available on Amazon. Peter, thank you so much for being with us today, and
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
hope you get that trip to Hawaii real soon.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that.
All you
Thanks
need is a
again.
Detroit Tigers cap, and you look just like
Oh, Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck and Magnum
And I
PI.
appreciate that too.
All right, and folks, thank you so much for joining us and spending a few minutes with us on the Global Book Network. I'm Paul Ryden. We'll see you next time.